Hello, everybody. Lise Helsloot here, the founder of the Facebook group Walking for Natural Weight Freedom. I'm a health and walking coach, an author, and also an entrepreneur. A lot of things in one woman, but yes, I am doing all of them. And I'm also the host of this wonderful group with all these wonderful ladies who I love so much. And you all started walking with me, and there's so many of you who started taking many steps a day. You all strive towards 15,000 steps and you try to go for an hour of walking every day. So this group is all about stimulating you all to go outside, get fresh air and start walking. Today we have a very, very interesting live session. So first of all, I have to apologize because the last couple of weeks I haven't had time to go live every week. And that has to do with the fact that my Dutch group in Belgium suddenly grew overnight to almost 2,000 members. So I was doing all the administration to get all of them registered and get them up and going in the group. And that's the reason why I haven't been so active in this English group anymore. So first of all, I apologize for that, but you're all in my hearts. So if you're watching live or if you're going to watch the replays, I apologize, but I hope you stay put because there's lots more to come in this group. And then today, we have a very interesting guest because she is going to talk about tea. And I am a tea lover. I've always liked the taste of tea. I got accustomed to it through my mom, my belated mom. She's not here anymore. She died 3 years ago. She's in front of me, so she's watching and she knows I love tea. And she has taught me much about the many benefits of tea and also to just enjoy that. And I see there's some people joining here. So if you want me to be able to see you and to see your comments, you can ask questions here. Just click on the link to StreamYard and grant StreamYard permission to see your profile so I know who the question is coming from. So I was talking about my past and I'm a tea lover, and that's all about the session. That's what the session of today is all about. And I've been digging deep into my bookshelf, which is behind me, which is full of cooking books and health books. And I have found 3 of my favorite books on tea. This is one I inherited from my mother. It's still full with notes from my mom about tea, of all the kinds of tea you can buy. And then I have a book about pure air tea, which I like very much. We will talk about that later today in the session. And also a book I once bought in the UK in London. I think about, it even says where I bought it. I bought it in London in 99, the year 99. So I'm not 20 anymore. I bought this book in January 99 in Neal Street, Covent Garden in the tea house. There's a big tea house there. I think it's more for tourists, but back then it's almost more than 20 years ago. I went to the tea house to get my yearly supply of fresh tea. And I also bought this book there. So I've always been about tea. But although I know a lot about tea, there's a lady today who's going to join us. Her name is Uma Satkunam, and she's the founder of Miss Tea Smith, and she's going to explain all about tea and especially the link between tea and weight loss. And she's going to tell you her story herself. She can do that herself because she knows her story, and she's here today to share her story about tea for weight loss. I hope that today I don't have any internet problems because I lose my internet connection regularly the last couple of weeks, so I hope it stays stable. But stay put. If it goes away, we will return in a minute or so if we lose contact. So I'm going to invite into this session this wonderful lady, Uma Satkunam, and I probably don't pronounce it perfectly, but welcome, Uma. Welcome in my group, Walking for Natural Weight Freedom, and we would love to get to know you. I found you somewhere networking online, I think, on Facebook. We got in touch, and I was like, you had to wait for a very long time for me to get in touch with you because I'm always so busy. But I'm so delighted that today you are on my Facebook group in this live session, and I would love to talk about tea. But so welcome. But I would like you to tell us where do you live, and how you got into tea. We are
Sure.
very curious here.
Thanks, Liz. Hi, everyone. Thanks, Liz, for very much for having me. So, as Liz said, my name is Uma Sakinen. I set up a company, Miss T. Smith, about 7 years ago because I've always wanted to work in tea. I used to work in financial services for a very long time. And like a lot of people who work in corporate, I wasn't very happy. I was very stressed. But now I have a different form of stress, but it's manageable stress rather than stress you get from corporate. So I set up a little company, and I decided to do sort of blends at home, and which is what I did. I sort of took Sri Lankan tea, or what is famously called Ceylon tea, and sort of blending it with fresh fruit, even or dried fruit, herbs, and spices. And I sold those on farmers markets in East London. So I live on the borders of East London and Essex, and they did really well actually. So I thought, okay, this could be a business idea entirely. And so in about 4 to 5 years, I have now moved production from the kitchen table that I'm sitting at now to a small factory in London. So they produce all the tea, they blend it, they pack it, and I sell it online now, and I sell it also to catering outlets. But that's come to a grinding halt because of coronavirus. So yeah, but it's been quite a journey. The difference between, say, for example, my blends and any other blend that you see is that I really truly only use and believe in using really natural products. So I use beetroot, I use licorice, I use cacao. So really interesting tea. So you don't want tea to be boring because you don't drink it otherwise. If it's chamomile, and if it's just chamomile, it can be a bit of a chore drinking it. I think a tea should be something that you get excited about drinking.
Mhm.
And that is excitement that I want to bring back into tea.
Okay. So you're all about tea. You have like a similar story as other people. I think you've been working in another kind of job in the financial world, the corporate world, and you made that switch. You're as crazy as I am to make a switch from a steady job to being self-employed, and you started doing something from your heart. So we have a similar story there as well. You started selling tea. I do my health coaching, but also I created hairbrushes because I wrote a book about it. So it's so much fun to hear people talk about their passion. And I always admire people, and especially women, who dare to take that first step to be self-employed and to just jump into the water and just start swimming and see where you go. And then COVID happens, and then we all have to rethink our plans. So we had the same story there as well. Okay, great. So since you are a tea lover, you probably also got acquainted with the fact that tea drinkers are usually more healthy and more slim than other people. So I would really love to know how tea can help us in a weight loss journey, because what I see in my practice is that a lot of people struggle with constant eating. They have constant cravings. They constantly feel like they should have a snack, and we are being forced by the food industry to have snacks. They tell us snacks are good for your metabolism. That's not at all what I preach, because they also teach you that you have to eat, and you start getting addicted to constant eating. And I would love to know from you, it works for me, but I would like to hear from an expert, how can tea help us to satisfy our cravings?
I think the best way of explaining this is to say how it's bad for us and the reason why it's bad for us. So I think a lot of people buy, so there's a two sets, I think, two reasons why we get tea wrong. One is where and what we buy, what sort of tea we buy. So primarily in England, we tend to use a lot of black tea, and that tends to be mass produced. They are in tea bags or tiny, tiny tea leaves. I have an example of tiny, tiny tea leaves, which is this sort of thing. So it's almost, in fact, the industry calls it dust, and it isn't,
Okay.
obviously, it's not dust, but it is because it's such a tiny particle, it's called dust in the industry as well. So the reason that they use dust, and we'll use that word, is because it gives you strength and color very quickly. So you, as we say, you dunk a tea bag into hot water and you remove it within, a couple of minutes or less, you get strength. And so you imagine you're getting a lot of goodness and strength and caffeine, but you're not really doing that. What you're getting is just color, but not none of the goodness. So I think if you buy the right kind of tea and you buy tea that is good for you, as in, so I would always say have a black tea in the morning and then sort of gradually move on to something a bit different. And I think tea offers those choices, gives you lots of different teas. There's green tea, there's yellow tea, there's white tea, and so on. So it depends very much on how you're feeling and what tea you drink. I tend to drink a lot of black tea in the morning. I have a black tea towards the afternoon, sort of 4 o'clock snack sort of stuff. And I make it, I have the same issue in that I want to have food. I retrained as a pastry chef at Cordon Bleu, which is one of the reasons I probably want to eat a lot as well, is I try and think of how I can make the tea have more body to it. And so I don't tend to use dairy. So I tend to use milks like almond milk, goat's milk, or even oat milk. They're much heavier and much more has much more goodness to it. They're usually produced, but they're not mass produced, so they don't have chemicals and they don't tend to be sitting on the shelf for too long as well. So that's what I use, and I use a lot of spices and herbs and stuff as well. So lemons, really good for you, and that sort of stuff. So just sort of thinking outside the box of tea itself and thinking of how you can introduce things to the tea that you normally drink. And black tea is always good in that sense. It does accept other flavors in really well. So that's
Yeah.
what I would do.
Okay, so you're having the black tea, which is something, especially in Belgium, people are accustomed to drinking coffee and they use that with milk. So it was very interesting to hear that we can drink the tea with milk. It's something typical for the UK, I think, to have tea with milk. I love it. It's not good with all kinds of milk, with all kinds of teas. Not all teas blend well with milk. But is there also something about adding milk to your black tea that does away with the nutrient loss? I've once heard that if you drink cow's milk with your black tea, it blocks the antioxidants from absorbing. Is that correct? Or
Yeah, that's true. So the gut, there are over 30,000 different enzymes and vitamins in food in itself. And to be able to absorb any of those, the gut needs to have a bit of space and no other work apart from what you're doing. So I think we spoke earlier about how you eat very much depends on how much time you give your stomach a chance to rest and recuperate before you give it more food. And of course, the gut has food 3 or 4 days from previous stuff as well. So it just depends on how quickly you are able to digest food and pass it on as well. So each one is individual. So the advice that we give or I give is very much based on sort of generic stuff. So I would say if you're going to have a meal, be it breakfast, lunch, or dinner, have a cup of tea at a lower temperature than about 30 minutes to 45 minutes before you eat. And that's like I think you talked about habits, and it is a habit as well, this habit of drinking good tea at a certain time before. And that may not always be possible because you're busy and things happen and you can't do it. But if you can't drink it before the meal itself, it gives a chance for the tongue, the throat, and the stomach lining itself to be prepared. So you're almost like washing, not quite, but kind of washing your gullet and system down so that it's able to accept food. And the best teas for that sort of stuff is natural ones. So if you can get hold of natural oils, sort of fresh mint, fennel, or even chamomile, so sort of light teas that does as good and cleanses as it goes down. And then if you follow that again, once again, about half an hour to 45 minutes after your meal with the same tea or tea that you really like. So you don't have to make it, if you don't like any of those, I can certainly suggest other teas that you can have. But drink something that you really enjoy drinking because it doesn't become a chore. I think if you think, oh, I have to drink tea before I eat, then you lose interest, you don't do it, and so on and so forth. But yeah, so
Yeah.
the drinking of the preparation and drinking of those teas really makes a difference to how you absorb nutrients.
I've never thought about drinking that particular tea, like mint or fennel. You also mentioned in one of our previous talks
Yeah.
before dinner. So that's a very good tip. I will really try that. And it might even help my clients and the people in this group to stop from overeating, because if you've had tea and you talk about cleansing the palate, you will much more enjoy your food
Mm,
and you will also absorb all the nutrients. So your body already gets an idea of, I'm getting nutrients,
yeah.
so I'm already a little bit full because I've had the tea. So that's a very good tip. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Uh, and then also we have the typical 4 p.m. snack. So we are so used to that. When we came from school, we had to have a snack, and usually it was a sandwich or cookies. And well, the older the years pass by, and nowadays it's all about convenience. But we don't actually always need to eat something at 4 o'clock. We just need a little pick me up,
Mm.
not Pickwick tea, because that's not the kind of tea I'm drinking and not the ones you
Yeah.
would talk about. But what kind of tea can help us at 4 p.m. when we have like, I need to have something, I need a little pick me up, and I
Yeah.
don't want to have another coffee. What can we have at 4 p.m.?
I think this is where the milk comes in. So if you like your milk in your tea, this is when you really go to town and really treat yourself to some really good teas. So if you buy a black tea, and black tea generally it works really well with milk. If you don't like it, and this is where you add a bit of spice. It doesn't have to be a chai if you're not too fond of spices, but you can just add maybe cinnamon, which actually has huge amounts of heating property. So it really warms your body and it's really good for your gums as well. So that sort of stuff is really good. Or if you just want to add cloves or whatever spice you like. But apart from that, I think if you're not too fond of green tea, then go for the fresh mint, fresh fennel, fresh stuff. That really, because to use 1 teaspoon of fresh mint, you would need to use 2 or 3 teaspoons of dried mint. And
Oh,
with the fresh mint, you're getting oils as well. The oils that we tend to use on our bodies when we have had a shower or bath or something, or in our bath, you actually get it directly into your body with especially mint oils and that kind of stuff. So any kind of fresh herb really works wonders, and that's a good one to have. And that's certainly, I think, when you take a cup or a bit of food to your mouth, the first thing you get is a smell, and the smell is part of the satisfaction. So you want to satisfy yourself before you put it into your mouth. And so once you do that, once you have half the battle, the rest is about taste. And you don't want to drink tea that is kind of weak and you think, oh, I really this is tea. I could really do with a piece of cake at this point. And this is where you want to try and get tea blends that have a bit of interest to it. So you can taste like cacao, mint, other bits and pieces to it that you think this is interesting. And you can then, there is one, I'm not trying to say buy my tea, but there is one that I call putting in a teacup. And essentially, that's what you want. You want to be satisfied, but you don't want to feel you missed out because you missed out on a piece of chocolate cake. So you want to have that feeling of being satisfied, but still have the goodness of all of the goodness of the ingredients within tea itself.
oh my God, pudding tea. I want to have that. Sounds wonderful as an addition to my teas in my cupboard. So I'm going to ask you for the link for that. So you have to share that in the group. We were I think there
Sure.
everyone who's watching live. I don't know who's watching live for the moment. I see there's someone watching. So if you want us to see your name on the screen, you can give access to StreamYard. So you just click the link on the right hand side of the video, and then you grant permission to StreamYard, and we can see your comments and you can also ask questions, because that's why we do a live session, because we are live here and you can ask us questions. But there will be many in the replays also interested in pudding tea, and I'm certainly going to buy that from you. So I'm
Right.
so curious. So, and I also have to say, if I drink tea with fresh mint at 4 o'clock, if you have had teas with mint or any other flavors like you've been describing, you also don't need that snack anymore, because it doesn't taste that well. You are like satisfied because you've had something fresh or lemon peel or whatever that tastes well, and you don't have that urge anymore to have that snack. So that's such a good tip. And the pudding tea, that's on my list now for Christmas. So great idea. And now the big question for today is, of course, everybody wants to have this magic pill. Also, my clients, they're like, how many pounds am I going to lose in a week or in a month or in 3 months? And I'm all about, this is not about shakes and pills and not overnight magic. But I know tea can help us for weight loss. It's not a magic pill. It's not like you're going to drink tea for 1 week. Like for the moment, there's these commercials on television here. Dr. Ming tea, I told you about that last
You
week.
did, yeah.
Dr. Ming tea, it's and they're claiming like if you drink this tea, you lose like 20 pounds in like 2 weeks or so. And I'm like, I want to have that tea. I want to drink that tea and just give it to all my clients, ask like millions of euros for it, and they will buy it from me. But
Yeah.
I don't sell crap. I don't sell stories to people. I sell the real stuff. So, but I know tea helps for weight loss. I also include it in my program. But why is that? And how do we do that, Uma?
Yeah. The best tea for weight loss, and this is once again, like you did, Liz, as a huge caveat to these things, is what you mentioned earlier, which is pu'er tea, which is what the Chinese call it, or you can, if you type in HT within your search engine, it'll come up as well. Essentially, it is tea that is being aged. So it's like port, wine, whiskey. So the older it is, and once again, it depends on how it's made. You can get wine that is 50 years old, but can taste really awful. It's the same thing. So the value of the value of the of tea is really high. In China, they used to use it as cash essentially, and used to be given as a dowry to for brides as well. It's really highly valued. But the health properties are the fermentation process that happens over months and years and years and years, which is fantastic. And we were talking, when we were talking last week, we were saying how this is the one drink, I think, in the whole world that you can have like a piece of it in your teapot, and you can brew that for the duration of the day, and the taste of it changes every single time. And I would say, and research has shown that there is weight loss if you have pu'er tea, but you would have to have it every day, and something like 2 liters of tea every day. That's practically not possible at all in any of our lives, even though I try and drink, and there is a bottle always sitting at my table, but it is just not possible to drink that sort of water, because life happens, life gets in the way, and you can't. But I would certainly encourage people to drink it at least 2 or 3 cups a day. And once again, you're getting into a habit, so you drink 1 glass over a week or 2 weeks, then increase that over the course of things. But it is, I mean, it's not just that you lose weight, it prevents the depositing of fat around certainly organs like liver and heart and so on. And it's very good for that purpose. But the taste in itself is just amazing. It's really good.
Mm-hmm. So if I hear you well, actually your recommendation for tea is to make it a habit, just like I do with walking and taking more steps into your life as a foundation of youth and permanent weight loss. So if I round up here this question about tea for weight loss, we have to drink it daily. Not only 1 cup. It's not like you have 1 cup and you lose a pound. It's just installing a habit of drinking tea instead of other beverages, and have a couple of teas a day. And then pu'er, you also recommend pu'er for weight loss. So I've noted that down. I will share something on that later on. Maybe we can do something on my blog about that, about the special teas. So we will have to talk about it. It might be very interesting. And if we go to the green tea, Uma, because a lot of people here drink green tea. We will talk about how to make the green tea and what green tea later on. But what can green tea do for us?
So the difference between green tea and black tea, or white tea or yellow tea. So tea essentially is just one plant, and it is a processing that gives you the different colors. So it gives you the tea plant, gives you black tea, gives you the same of the green tea, yellow tea, and white tea as well. And the difference between the yellow and green tea is essentially processed less than the black tea, and so that's the reason it doesn't last as long. So usually, I'm not sure about mainland Europe, but here you can have a date stamp at the back of a tin or a box which says 2 years, whereas green tea should be less than that, though not everyone practices that. So if you do look at the back of the package, make sure that it is as young, the leaf is as young as possible. So we are now in November. The finest harvest in China and Japan around March, April time, which is spring, and spring is one of the best times to harvest tea leaves. You want to try and buy a tin or a box that is around that time of the year. So within a year of it being plucked and processed, you want to get that. So the benefits of green tea is that it has a higher quantity of polyphenols, which are really, really good for you, certainly insofar as it acts as a cleanser, not just within the system itself, but as a skin cleanser as well. Not on your skin, obviously, but
so
as
facelift. We get a facelift from drinking green tea.
yes, but once again, the caveat is you'd have to drink lots and lots of tea to be able to say, look at my glowing skin. But no, it is once again a habit of doing that. So it's got huge amounts of antioxidants as well. So that's one of the reasons that you have good skin. It's also very good for your gums as well. It protects gums. And in China and Japan, they actually make Colgate, which is obviously a global brand, makes their toothpaste with an extract of green tea in it as well. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
wonderful. Oh, that matches with a story. I once read an article about the fact that tea has a minor amount of fluorides. Do you say that in English? So the thing they add to toothpaste. My father was a dentist all his life, so I know all about healthy teeth. I've never had one cavity in my life, but
Oh,
I don't eat a lot of candy, and I brush my teeth, I floss, but I also drink a lot of tea. And I'm like, people think tea will make your teeth more brownish, but if you brush your teeth every day and if you drink water and you rinse your mouth, that's no problem. But it also has a little bit of fluor in it, which also adds to protect your teeth from cavities. So that's cool. I didn't know there was a Colgate with added tea, so that's
yeah.
interesting. Okay, great.
There are also a number of beauty products. So I think the massive companies like L'Oreal and so on are doing a lot of research and are injecting, and I say injecting in the sense of extracting tea, the goodness of tea, and putting it into beauty products as well. So a lot of their face creams and so on have tea extracts in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So once again, you really need to read the label before you buy something on the basis of someone saying, "Oh, it's got tea extract."
Yeah. Or maybe it's just 0.0000010% or something, and then it's just advertising, like with food as well. Yeah, that's a good tip. Okay. What I also see in my practice, Uma, is that people who are overweight, women who need to lose a little bit of pounds, they also sometimes struggle with stress and worry, and also insomnia. And insomnia, if we don't sleep well, then our bodies aren't rested. So what happens during the day is that we start having more cravings because we are tired, we need sugar. and that leads to weight gain again. So what are your tips for my ladies in the group about how we can tackle insomnia with tea or with other tips? I remember you had lots of tips, so I would love to hear them here.
Yeah. I know I'm not sure what it is like you guys, but it's I there's been a lot of talk about morning rituals. So when you get up, what do you do and how you do it and so on. But I am a huge believer in evening or nighttime rituals. So I have had this ritual. I have to have a really warm bath, summer or winter. I have to have one before, or else I just can't go to sleep. I think I've told myself so often that I can't go to sleep, so I don't sleep. So I go through a process of starting with a tea ritual, and that is from getting using your favorite teapot. And I always try and use a loose leaf tea, and I use that to brew tea with. And I take about 5 minutes, and I have nothing else on, no music, nothing. All the stuff is switched off, and then I actually make a proper cup of tea, and I make whatever tea I feel like. So I don't restrict myself to just chamomile and so on. But if you happen to find that caffeine affects your sleep, then obviously don't make a green tea or a black tea. Stick to your herbal teas like chamomile and mint or whatever. Um, but so I always make myself a cup of tea. I take a little time just to relax. In fact, I do the thing that you're not supposed to do, which is watch the kettle boil, and then I make it properly. I sit and drink it, and then I have a really warm shower, and I go to bed. And that whole point of, I think it's a case of telling your brain and yourself, this is the end of the day. You're now going to sleep, and so on and so forth. So I tend to listen to music, and I read as well, about half an hour to an hour before going to sleep as well. It all prepares you for it. So it is the preparation and is as important as the quality of sleep. And the quality of sleep very much depends on when you eat, what you eat, obviously, and give yourself a few hours before you go to sleep. But the drinking of the tea before you go to sleep really makes a huge difference in cleansing yourself and preparing you for a night of really deep, calming sleep as well.
Mm-hmm. That's so inspiring because it's a total opposite of the modern person who like watches television, has too much screen time. Just before bed, we still check our Facebook, and well, we're on Facebook for the moment, but Facebook also has good things. So there's good things about social media, but if we are constantly on those screens and checking our mail and checking messages and WhatsApp and whatever and Snapchat, whatever we have, I see that in my daughter also. When it's 10 o'clock in the evening, they still have that urge to check their screen. And I have a habit of turning off my phone in the evening. Usually it's around 8:30, sometimes 9 o'clock, and I don't respond to messages anymore. So I try to shut it down. And also in the morning, the first moment I put on my device is usually 8 a.m. in the morning. Just before I start work, I check the urgent messages, and then I start to work, because if you check them constantly, you don't get anything done. But that's such a good tip, just to have a proper cup of tea, brew a cup of tea, and enjoy that ritual. I've really heard you say the word ritual, which I really love, to have a ritual. It's the same with walking and taking more steps in your life. It becomes a ritual, which is very good for you. And then when you were talking about the proper way of brewing your tea, that's also something I would like to know, to end this interview with you, about how do we make a proper cup of tea, because I think a lot of us here are doing it wrong, and I have viewers from all over the world, people from Mexico, the US, Belgium. I can't remember which countries are in this group, but how do we make a proper cup of tea? Please tell us some tips.
That's a good question. It's I think a lot of people. I mean, even though we've been brewing tea for years and years and years, or all our lives in some cases, we still do it wrong. So I would say, as I said, I live in London, and we have hard water here, so it's got a huge amount of chemicals in it, and that is never good for you in itself, for you as a person, and certainly not good for the tea at all. I always filter my water. So get a filtering system or a little, it's called Brita here, but there must be an equivalent in Europe and the rest of the world as well. I always have filtered water just to drink, just generally, and also for the tea. So I always filter water and never reboil a kettle. Always throw the water out, put in fresh filtered water, and this, I always say that there are three T's to making good tea. The tea itself, make sure if buy the best quality tea that you can do. Whole leaves are better, but if you get really good tea bags, fantastic, go for those. The other is temperature, and you want to boil the kettle at the right temperature for your tea. So for black teas generally and pu'er teas, 100 degrees, so it's normal sort of boiling. And then for green teas, yellows, whites, and so on, it is always less than 80 degrees temperature. If you have a temperature controlled kettle, fantastic. You can always set it for that. If you don't, no worries. All you do is boil the kettle, pour some hot water, or rather some cold water in it, bring the temperature down, wait a little, couple of seconds or so, just to give it some time, and then pour it in. And then the last tea is time. So when you, for example, when you brew green tea, make sure it's at 80 degrees or less, and you want to brew it only for 3 minutes. And a lot of people complain that green tea is really bitter, and the bitterness comes because you're scorching and you're bruising and hurting the tea leaves essentially. And you want to try and keep the tender leaves as tender as possible. And so reducing the temperature makes a huge difference. Once you have the temperature right, pour in about 100 milliliters of water, let it brew for the right time, and then I always find that I do the same steps each time. And I think doing those same steps, the repetition, routine is always a good thing for children, and certainly for us. I know the routine and the fact that you know where your cup is all the time, the fact that you know where the kettle is all. It's the mind finds it very restful. It's very mindful experience of brewing a cup of tea because you know where everything is. And then once you brewed it, I would pour it into. I have my favorite mugs and so on. I always try if I have guests, I try and use different cups and stuff. Have a bit of fun. There's nothing, it's not a very formal affair. Have a bit of fun, and I sit and I read or I listen to sort of mellow music before I go on to the shower. That's my routine for and how I brew my tea. And if I'm having it with milk, I would always heat the milk. I know it's not the done thing in the UK to have warm milk, but I always warm the milk and add to the tea because I don't like the temperature drop from 100 degrees to 85 or 80 degrees when you're drinking black tea.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I add sugar sometimes as well to my tea, especially if it's a very strong thing. And also when I'm tasting for my blends, I need to know what the variations are for tea, for adding lemon and so on and so forth. But I don't tend to use artificial sugars or anything of the sort.
Yeah. But the most important thing is here also to find a way which works for you. To find a way of brewing tea which you like, you add the warm milk, and if you like the warm milk, then add the warm milk. And if you don't have the cold milk, I prefer the cold milk. So when I sum it up, it's, well, first of all, you use loose tea of high quality, so good quality loose tea or herbal tea. We have the proper brewing time. We have the proper teapot to do that, the right temperature. So for all the US people watching here, we're talking degrees. So it's 100 degrees is the boiling point, and 80 degrees is like a little bit under that. So we have to look that up. So 100 degrees Celsius and 80 degrees Celsius. So we're going to brew the tea in a proper teapot, have fun with the cups and how you serve it. I personally like my black tea and green tea in a fine lined cup. I don't like the thick mugs. I usually use the mugs for herbal teas and then the fine ones for the more distinguished teas. That's my thing. I enjoy it more. So it's like having a nice plate for a nice meal. It also makes a big difference if you use the right teacup for that. That's cool. Do you sell teacups as well in your company?
No, not yet, but that
No,
would be
yeah,
something I really would love to, because it's like when you're having, when you're having wine, you would never serve white wine in a cup that belongs in a glass that belongs to red wine.
yeah,
I totally am on board with what you said. You need to serve it in a proper glass, otherwise, it
yeah.
it messes up the taste.
Yeah, it does. I totally agree with you. I have several cups in my house and we use a different cup for every kind of tea. I like the glass mugs. You have this Swiss brand Bodum. You can also get that in the UK. I think their teapot is very practical if you're very busy because it's a tea press. So you just adjust the steeping time, you press it down and it doesn't steep anymore. So it doesn't get too bitter or sour, the tea. So it's so important to invest in good stuff, not only material, but also if we invest in good products like good tea, we can really improve our health and we can also enjoy it. And that's what I think one of your messages was today, that tea is something we don't just do for weight loss. We have to learn to appreciate the taste of tea. And then we can also enjoy the weight loss benefits even more. So that was such a wonderful interview with you and so interesting. I guess there will be many more questions here. So I did see there's someone watching here live. I don't know if you have any questions, but if you have a question to Uma about tea, please go ahead, just type in your question and I guess she will answer you during the live session. Or if you watch this video on replay, you can also type in a comment. I will have a look at them later today or tomorrow. And if it's a question I can't answer, I will ask Uma to just go in there and give a proper answer so you get an answer from a tea expert. In the meantime, we're just waiting for some questions. Uma, where can we find you on the internet? How can we buy your teas? Where do we find you?
Oh, yes, of course. It's on www.missteasmith.com. So you'll find I have a website. I'm on Facebook, on Instagram, Twitter. You can certainly reach out on any of those platforms, and I can certainly get back to you with the website and also on. Yeah.
Okay, great. I will share the website and also your social media in the post later on. So I'll add all the links to that so people can connect with you. And we're all women here, so women support women. So if we can help each other grow on social media, just give her a big like on Facebook, on Instagram, follow her page, whatever she's doing. Just follow a wonderful woman, being an entrepreneur, just doing her thing, loving tea and making time for us in this group. And that's such a wonderful thing, giving back to the world. Just by talking to us, you have given us such wonderful information, which we can all use, and we can all use some hot tea for the moment to warm our hearts and our soul. We are not going to talk about the C word here because it's all about the news and I don't watch the news anymore on it. It's like, it is what it is, and we can just have fun in this group and talk about positive stuff, and that's all. That's all about, that's what this group is all about, to talk about positive stuff, walking, taking steps, eating healthy, and supporting each other in our goal of getting a healthy life. So that's wonderful. I don't see any questions here for the moment, but I'm certain there might be some later on. So, and otherwise you have answered all the questions during this live. So if you heard something from Uma you want to know more about, or maybe there's some interesting topic we didn't tackle today, it might be something we can interview Uma on a later occasion, again on a different topic, because this was all about weight loss, but maybe we can do something about flavor, how to brew, and maybe we can do a how-to showing us how you properly do that in action or something. We can think of so many things here today.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you? One question: do you ship worldwide? So if we order tea from you, you do? Yeah. Does it ship to the US, for example? Do you have to pay taxes on that, or?
I do ship to the US. The only place that I've had issues with, I do tea tasting and pairing as well. Sent some tea to Chile, Colombia, and Brazil, and they were not received. So those countries, there are obviously issues with it. Even though the tea is packed in a factory and so on, it does go in a tin, but for some reason it was never received. So there could be issues in those three countries.
Okay, all right. But I guess there's no one in this group from these countries. So I'm certainly going to try that pudding tea, and I'm going to check out all the teas you have. I might ask you for some extra advice on that, so I can broaden my tea horizon, and my taste buds might get pleasantly surprised by what you offer. So thank you very much, Uma. For everyone, I will post all the information about Uma here in the group, and you can get in touch with her. And Women Help Women, give her a like, and if you want tea, buy from Uma. It's all I can tell you. Okay,
great.
Thank you very much. Thank you for this talk, Uma, and thank you everyone for watching, and thank you for following this Facebook group. Have a very nice day. Bye, everyone.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you.